Welcome to Sketch Today. I'm Spencer, where every day I provide a new video tutorial looking at something, anything really, and how to sketch it. So today we're going to take a look at speakers, so just a simple passive speaker box, and how I would go about sketching and presenting that concept. I'll be using tracing paper, markers, pens, pencils, you name it. So if you'd like to get a hold of some supplies, use the links below to help support Sketch Today. As well, if you have suggestions for what we can do here on the channel, be sure to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you and hear your feedback. To start, I need to think about what exactly the speaker is going to look like, type of speaker. One of the best ways to do that, of course, is the thumbnail. But I'm going to start this time with a simple example, which would be something like this. Nice tall box. And point of view is an interesting thing in perspective. So let's say we sketched our speaker box, the form represented by this volume to the left, and I sketched another volume like so to the right. Okay, in terms of scale, because of how we see the world, these two drawings are speaking to us differently. The one on the left is communicating a sense of familiarity in terms of viewing the object, which gives a sense of scale to be small. And the drawing on the right, because of how we see buildings outdoors, communicates the sensation of bigness or large. Okay, so if I were to then add some details to this, for example, just kind of think of something very simple here. Okay, this is one way to think of a speaker. And I could do the same thing here. Again, these two speakers have different impact in terms of the presentation. So point of view is super important as you're presenting a concept or idea. How you want this product to be perceived can be determined by how you sketch it in perspective. So I'm going to go with the one on the right. I'm just going to mess with your brains a little bit here and sketch something that is in more of a three-point perspective. If you want to check out my video on three-point perspective, you can go ahead and click the thumbnail here, and that'll send you right to that video where you can see kind of how I think about three-point perspective and how that works. So to start, I'll sketch kind of a leading edge here, some receding edges, like so, and we've got a nice three-point perspective to start with. And I'm going to do kind of an old school speaker, and this speaker is going to have a nice fat foot on the bottom. Maybe it's some chunk of metal, for example. And it's going to kind of have a little bit of a float. The upper portion rather, it's going to have a little bit of a float. And my speaker needs to have, of course, a speaker grille. Some sort of cover, usually made of speaker cloth, and that's going to cover my drivers. Now, just for purposes of illustration, I'm going to sketch those drivers in. Think about an ellipse on a surface like a circle in a square. And you can always reference this into your drawing. So if I draw a square here on front in perspective, and I wanted to draw an ellipse, it's going to be something like that, right? And on top here, if I draw through to where my tweeter or my high-end speaker driver would be, something like this. So I can sketch that in. Now the reason it looks the way it does is because if I look at a cross section, meaning take a nice blade, like a knife, here's my knife, and I cut through the speaker, this is what I get, a cross section. And this cross section may look something like so. So to get that in perspective, I need to sketch a plane and another plane offset, and then connect the corners of those planes. And that's going to give me the shape of this kind of tweeter area. Okay, so that's why I did what I did. okay, as I did it. And now looking at the sketch as I've thought through it, there's some things I'd want to tweak. So again, tracing paper, love it. It's cheap, easy to use, and super flexible. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do something a little bit different today. So the crazy thing I want to try here is I'm going to do a wash. I haven't done one of these in a while, so hopefully this works. I just need a couple guidelines to start, and so just a quick overlay with a pencil. Super quick outline so I don't get lost here. And what I'll do is on the back of this, I'm going to use a nice, big, wide Sharpie marker. And that's going to serve as a kind of wash, or Copic marker rather. That's going to serve as a wash for this sketch and just kind of give a nice base layer of color. So pull my underdrawing out. Now I've got this pencil drawing here. Flip this over. And now with my Copic marker, I've got an E49 Copic marker. I'm just gonna lay it on here. And it's kind of dry, which is fine. I just want to get some nice tone, and I can vary that tone through the middle. Now you guys probably think I'm crazy. It's like, what is he doing? But when I flip this over, okay, it's gonna serve as a nice kind of background for my sketch. So now that that's there, I'm going to start working on all these details. Like, I'm gonna pretend that the cover of the speaker is completely off, and we'll sketch that. Okay, so I'm gonna explode this out, for example. And by explode, I mean pull the actual element out as if it were lifted from the front of the speaker, and that's my speaker grill. So with this little area here, I'm gonna reserve all this shading and goodness right here in pencil for my speaker grill. And now I can mark in where my driver would be. Okay, and I've got two ellipses offset. We can see that there. And just a couple details right in there for my cone. And let's say my cone actually is more of a squircle. Okay, so just a little pencil, mark that in. And I'm gonna do kind of a weird oval tweeter just because I can. And you might be thinking, whoa, whoa, whoa! You don't draw ellipses like that in perspective. Well, how to draw an ellipse in perspective, not a circle, is a whole different matter. And I can show you guys that another time here on Sketch Day. But for now, I'm just gonna leave this as is. Okay, so I've got my high-end tweeter here, got my big old driver, I've got the base marked in, and the main body. So now, I'm gonna sift through my awesome box of markers here. Let's see if we can find a color that'll work for the side. I've got an E29, and another E29 backup, and a 25. So I'm gonna use those two, and those two are gonna be used here on the outside. Okay, I'm gonna start with the 25 because I don't want to go too dark. But you can see already, now I'm starting to pull the form out. Right? And I'm just gonna put marker where I need it to go. And to get a nice gradient down the side, let's start on the top, like so. Kind of fade it down. hit this again. And the marker on the back does a nice job of just giving me some initial texture and value to work with. Okay, pretty cool. So let's take the 29, kind of deepen this up and darken it a little bit because it's the far side on our sketch. In fact, I can come on the back side like so. And even work in some of that gradient as well. So the wash then serves as part of my background and part of my foreground in this particular sketch. And with a little bit of blending and marker application, I'm able to get the side of the speaker kind of reading really well. So on the front, I'm just going to go ahead and fill this in nice and flat with my 25, my E25 marker, like so. And my driver, I want this to feel really dark. So to do that, I'm going to use Sharpie. I'm hoping I can see this from the back side. So let me mark just a couple points here where I want to shade this in. Okay, I can see them right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I'm just going to trace this, and I'm working on the back side of the tracing paper, just like last time. And because I want to see where I need to actually shade in, just a couple little dotted lines, okay? And that's going to help guide me because once I shade this in, it's going to kind of go dark. So now on the back with this fat Sharpie, just shade this in and we should get a nice even tone on the front. So that with our white pencil and white pen, we can help bring out some of this form, okay? All right, a little bit of Sharpie there on this outside edge. Let's do the same thing on our oval. Tweeter driver here. Shade this in. Flip it over and you can see we've got some nice tone right through there, okay? So now, using pencil, I can then start to build up on the inside of this cone. Build up some value. If it's not dark enough, take something like the 70% gray marker, for example. Be careful not to hit the Sharpie areas too hard with it because it'll actually cause the Sharpie to bleed. But now essentially I've got 2 layers of value working in this drawing to kind of show depth and detail. And once I get the white pencil on here, you'll kind of see what I mean. So, Prismacolor white pencil, can start to pull out some of these details like so. Using the black pencil to also push my contrast where I need it. Okay, so you can see with the white pencil, I'm able to pull some of the detail out and the form is starting to pop a lot more. On the outside of the form, when we start adding line weight, you'll also see that that'll start to pop in terms of appearance. On the speaker grill, specifically, now I'm on the front, and I'm just gonna map this out with some nice gray marker here. And what's gonna happen is the wash will show through, but that's okay. And also a little bit of that under sketch will show through as well. And if I am strategic in how I apply my marker, so for example, I could do like a diagonal application of my marker stroke to suggest or simulate a grain or pattern in the actual speaker cloth. Now it's not literal, so I'm not going in and highlighting every aspect of the speaker cloth, but rather now taking my marker and using the chisel tip on the point with lines that are hatched, I'm able to simulate some sort of subtle texture. And I'm leaving gaps between where I apply my marker so that it'll read, okay? On the back side here, I'm just going to use the same marker because I want to show that the side here is metal. And to do that, I'm just going to leave a few gaps because I want this to be a little bit shiny, not brushed. So wherever I think there would be some sort of reflection, I've left those gaps. So now when I flip over, it's darken up under here. And also on this edge where we have a change in direction of the surface. And on this underside, I now have a cool metal foot for my old school style speaker. Now the last thing that's missing is the line weights, or line outline rather. So now that this is done, I can take my super awesome ruler. Actually, I'm just using a pencil. It's a little bit dangerous to do this, but mostly because the pencil could slip and you could end up with a line that you don't want to have. But I'm going to trust myself here to actually use this pencil as my straight edge. Using a tool while sketching, there's nothing wrong with that. What you want to do, however, is kind of leave it for the end, or rather when you're settled and fairly confident about your idea, so that you're not really using it as a crutch. Okay, you don't want to use your tool as a crutch because it's going to slow down your thinking and ideation process as you go. So a little bit more pencil work here, and we'll be ready to add a few more effects to this page. If you've seen my other demo on how to render wood with a marker, you could also apply that technique here if you so chose to help you create a more realistic wood texture. However, I feel like because I have the wash kind of going on, I don't want to make this too busy. Thinner lines toward the top of the sketch because that's the light source. Away from the light source, a little heavier line weight. If you're working with a pencil, make sure you try and keep that tip sharp, or rotate your pencil as you draw. And that's going to help you draw on the sharpened edge as you draw of the pencil. Okay. Almost there, guys. Hang with me. Sometimes it's hard to know when to stop. I know that time isn't now, so I'm still going, but for sure this is fun, right? I'm shading this in a little bit more because I want to show that there is some change in surface on this edge. And if you want to set up the contrast on that corner, using something like a white pencil toward the top and fading it out across that face helps with the contrast read of the speaker. For reflection on the bottom, because this is sitting on a surface, I'm going to use a 50% gray marker and basically just mirror a little bit what's happening on the top. Okay, and you can see that reflection now represented below. Pretty cool. If we want to fade that reflection out ever so slightly, you can take your pencil and start to create almost a shadow or surface that your object is resting on. Something like that. And it'll help mute the effect of the reflection. If it's, you know, competing for attention in your drawing and you want to just push that down just a little bit, you can do that using just that little technique of the pencil on the bottom. So we've got reflection, we've got our side here, we've got our outline. Need something else to pop. So that's where a white pen comes in. I'm using a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen White. You can find these on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description of the video. They're super nice. One of the best white pens I've used. And so I've been giving it a try over the last few weeks and I really like it. So just adding some white highlights where we might need them on this drawing. So wherever there's kind of an area where a highlight would be caught, I can use this pen to kind of accentuate or push that. I can also use the pen to create what's called a rim light or outline on my drawing. So here with my pencil, I'm going to show a little bit of rim light on the outside, but also just to kind of separate the drawing from the background. I can use this white pen just on the outside. And if you're careful enough as you do this, you get this really nice effect on the outside. And now this is starting to pop off the page a little bit more. You can do that toward the front as well. And it really only shows up, as you can see, where we have some good wash showing through on the background. Now tracing paper is transparent, or translucent rather, so you will get a little bit of this pen showing through on the tracing paper, even though there is no wash. However, it'll show up way better where there's a wash or some sort of tone or color, okay, behind. Now let's say this speaker cover is casting a little bit of a shadow on our drawing. I'm going to take a little bit of black pencil and just over on top of everything, slightly shade in with my pencil kind of flat. And this will vary the light a little bit on the front of my drawing. All right, and as always, sign your work, and we're done. So you can see that with some creative, thoughtful approaches to using marker as a tool with tracing paper and pen and pencil, you can really bring life to a drawing. I can already see areas where I'd love to spend a little bit more time, but unfortunately, I will not be doing that today. So, in the meantime, if you like what you see and you enjoy Sketch Today, be sure to subscribe to help support us. You can also find me on Instagram at sketchtoday.com or on youtube.com. Well, that's where you are, hopefully, youtube.com/sketchtoday. I mean, on facebook.com/sketchtoday. You can find me there as well. I'd love to hear your feedback and hear your comments, so be sure to leave a comment below and I'll respond, or you can shoot me a message or email or whatever works for you. And that way I can know what's kind of going on, what you guys like to see, what you don't like to see. I know some of you don't like the music. I like the music. I try to be sensitive to that and minimize it as much as possible, but I do love the music. So in any case, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your support. Keep on supporting us by tuning in, and we'll see you next time right here on Sketch a Day.